Down south in North Carolina, the APTE makes a stop in Salisbury and is met by an... Is anyone else seeing a pattern here? The L1 calmly returns to the roundhouse, having just had a little chat with the J50. Sheriff Panko is staked out in the trolley interchange, where he can keep an eye on the roundhouse. He knows those engines are up to something. Still hoping to get a record-breaking speed documented on a citation, the T1 blows the doors off Sheriff Panko again. The sheriff isn't concerned, however, as he has some help from the state troopers. Super Trooper is on the case. The yard goat enters the engine facility and asks if anyone knows what happened to the J50. Having hidden the still somewhere, the standard 410-wheeler returns to the engine facility. Mallard and Gadwall, both recovering from their earlier escapades with the special water, are trying to sleep it off with little success. Flying Scotsman, on the other hand, requests that the Standard 4 take the tank and refill it. The Standard 4 thinks Scotsman is off his trolley, but will take the opportunity to hide the other wagon. Sheriff Panko sees that the Moonshine tank is on the move and prepares to tail the Standard 4 to the location of the still. Chadson rolls by the engine facility and loudly proclaims that he has not had a Brit on top of him since 1776. The sheriff makes his move, but is held up by a red signal. Lion emerges from a tunnel hauling some modern coal cars. This shouldn't take long. After all, how many of these could Lion be pulling anyways? Steve Irvan enters the yard and attempts to hug the yard goat. The yard goat would hug back, but the lack of arms makes it difficult. A set of mid-train helpers pass the sheriff and whisper something about Lion having made a wish. The Black Five returns to the yard, having had her fill of watching the park life. The Ivat Mogul scolds the Black Five for neglecting her duties. The Black Five leaves the yard again. Another set of helper locomotives in the coal train passes the sheriff. The sheriff tells them to get their turbochargers in gear and get out of his way. The yard goat has agreed to let Steve Irvan ride along for the switching work. It's a slightly heavier load, but the yard goat doesn't mind the company. Yet another set of helper diesels passes by, this time asking the sheriff why he hates wishes. The Black Five has gone into the station office to file a complaint against the Ivat Mogul. At least once she figures out how to use a typewriter. The last set of helper diesels passes Sheriff Panko. The crew on board displays their #1 favorite finger to the sheriff because he hates elderly children and their wishes. The coal train has passed, but the signals are still red. The APTE is running rather late, having gotten stuck behind the coal train. The APTE stops at the Salisbury station. The passengers look a lot less green this time, and some are actually complimenting the ride. With a clear signal at last, the sheriff and his deputy race up the mountain to try to see where the Standard 4 is going to put the Moonshine tank. Well, so much for that. The L1 has been asked to put the J50 back in the roundhouse so that he can be steamed back up, but the J50 isn't cooperating. This is the most awkward turntable ride the L1 has ever been on. A Dash 8 arrives in the yard with the gun, but sees the sheriff. The Dash 8 dumps the gun and runs, as ex-con locomotives are not allowed to have such items. In this case, this locomotive never worked for Conrail. He qualified for this distinction the hard way. The deputy and sheriff see the suspicious activity and race into action. First, they must secure the gun. The deputy seems to be coming in a little hot. The sheriff appears to have landed in a gondola, and the deputy is likely airborne somewhere over the Commonwealth of Virginia. The sheriff is wondering if he's found himself a dippity deputy. The yard goat goes to get the crane. Again. The J50 is almost back in full steam. Another Volkswagen bus on rails arrives, but he's not looking for a hug. This is Herr Brandmeister, the local German fire marshal, and he wants to have a word with the J50 about some gunpowder. The J50 blitzes out of the engine facility. After being gone most of the day, the 5600 returns to the yard. The Ivat Mogul asks the 5600 where she's been all day. The 5600 replies that she found a magical place called West Virginia. The yard goat brings the crane alongside the sheriff so that he can stop playing gondolier. The deputy has found his way back from Virginia, or wherever he took his flight to. Dippity stops next to the sheriff and nonchalantly asks how he's doing. The sheriff does not want to talk about it right now. As the sun sets, the locomotives all head into the roundhouse for the night. The 5600 has gotten on the turntable first and is getting in her nightly 250 good luck spins, much to the chagrin of the L1. Once the 5600 finishes with the turntable, everyone else settles in. Everyone else settles in. The L1 is starting to wonder if the 5600's turntable antics are really that bad.